Ever feel like your brain is a leaky bucket? You spend hours studying, reading, watching lectures, pouring an ocean of information in, and by the next day, it feels like almost everything has leaked out. It's one of the most frustrating feelings there is. We put in the effort, but the knowledge just doesn't stick. And the worst part is, it's not your fault. We were taught to treat our brains like a messy storage unit. We just throw things inside and pray we can find them when we need them. But the counterintuitive truth is that almost everything you do to study, highlighting texts, rereading chapters, even taking notes, is a placebo. It creates the dangerous illusion of competence. It keeps you busy, but it doesn't make you truly learn. But what if I told you that a solution to this leak exists, and it's simpler than you imagine? This is where the hero of our story comes in. Richard Feynman, a genius, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, but he was best known as the Great Explainer. Feynman had a guiding obsession. If he couldn't explain a complex idea in a ridiculously simple way, to the point where a child could understand it, then he hadn't truly understood it himself. And from this powerful principle, the technique was born that will transform your leaky bucket into a vault of knowledge. Get ready. The journey to actually learning begins with an act of pure courage, a confrontation not with an external enemy, but with the image we have of ourselves. Think about a subject you proudly claim to master, perhaps compound interest. The first phase of this technique is almost a ritual. It invites you to take a blank sheet of paper, a silent battlefield, and write the name of the concept at the top. This simple act is a declaration of war against passivity. It's you telling your brain that the time for merely accumulating information is over, and now it's time to prove your true knowledge. Now comes the part that, bluntly, separates those who know from those who only think they know. It challenges you to explain this idea on paper, not for a professor or an expert, but as if you were teaching a curious 12-year-old. The first time I did this, he would confess, it was an embarrassment. I used principle, yield, liquidity. The kid would have already run off to play. That was the click, the gut punch to self-confidence. He realized he didn't actually know compound interest. He only repeated the jargon. His brain was filled with shortcuts and mental post-it notes that masked a surprising ignorance. This uncomfortable, almost shameful experience reveals a universal truth about knowledge. Many of us are like a cook who only knows how to read the recipe, who has memorized the steps but doesn't understand why salt enhances flavor or how acidity balances fat. The first time an ingredient is missing, he can't improvise. He's lost. To truly learn, you need to be the chef, the master of the whys. And it's in this exact moment of frustration, staring at the paper and not knowing what to write, that the map to your personal treasure begins to be drawn, revealing where your understanding truly ends. And this is where the true magic of this technique reveals itself, right in the middle of discomfort. In the exact moment you get stuck, when the words disappear and your mind feels like a desert, something extraordinary happens. Most people panic here, feeling like a fraud and cursing their own memory. But the wise mentor sees it differently. This isn't a failure. It's a diagnosis. It's your brain, which hates inefficiency, handing you a precise map with a big red X, pointing out the exact unknown frontier of your knowledge. This game-changing insight is the very heart of the method for learning effectively. That feeling of frustration is not your enemy. On the contrary, it's your most loyal advisor. In the compound interest example, he got stuck trying to explain why time was so powerful. Bingo! Instead of getting lost in the forest, he received the exact coordinates of his doubt. That 15-minute, laser-focused study session was surgical, worth more than days of passively reviewing information he already knew. Therefore, it's crucial that you reframe this feeling. Discomfort isn't a red light to stop. It's the brightest green light there is for real learning. Your brain is telling you not to take another step before checking the terrain. You've stopped being a collector of facts and have become an engineer. You have your own knowledge. You have found the hole in your bucket. Now that you know exactly where the water is leaking from, the question becomes practical and urgent. Are you going to stare at the leak, or are you going to grab the right tool to fix it once and for all? With the map in hand and the exact location of the leak identified, the next step is to grab the right tool. This third step of the technique is to return to the source material, be it a book, a lecture, or an article. But this time, you are no longer a passive student. You are a treasure hunter with a specific mission. You don't read for the sake of reading. You actively seek the piece of information that will fill the gap your brain showed you. This focused search is the difference between wandering aimlessly and walking with purpose, ensuring your study time is absurdly more productive and rewarding. Now, with the missing piece in hand, the cycle is refined. The invitation is to return to your sheet of paper, look at your original, complicated, jargon-filled explanation, and do something liberating. Erase it. In its place, you will rewrite the concept, now with your new understanding, in an even simpler and clearer way. Think of this as applying a weld to your knowledge. Every time you identify a hole, search for the answer, and simplify the explanation. You aren't just patching a gap. You are fusing two pieces of knowledge together, creating a neural connection that is strong, resilient, and permanent. The final result of this process is the transformation of a complex concept into something so simple, it's almost poetic. The explanation of compound interest, for example, ceases to be a pile of financial terms and becomes a story. Imagine your money is a team of workers. In the beginning, you have a few, but the money they generate, the interest, also becomes workers. Over time, your team grows faster and faster without you doing almost anything. This is the beauty of the technique, transforming complex information into visual and unforgettable wisdom, creating a structure that no longer leaks. And when you start to unite these simple explanations, well, that's when something even more powerful begins to take shape. And just when you think the process is over, it offers one last polish, an optional step that turns the good into the exceptional. The invitation is to read your simple, newly welded explanation out loud. Yes, to the walls, to the mirror, it doesn't matter. It is in this moment that your ears become the final judge of simplicity. If the explanation doesn't sound like a fluid, natural conversation, if you stumble over your own words, it's a sign that there's still hidden complexity there. This final stage of the technique forces you to refine even further, to find even better analogies, to turn clarity into eloquence. The result of this four-step journey is a true alchemy of learning. You don't end up with a pile of disconnected notes or a cold summary of a chapter. What you have in your hands now is a story, a cohesive and powerful narrative that your brain doesn't just understand, but embraces. We are narrative creatures. Our brains were not built to memorize lists of facts, but to remember journeys and tales with heroes and challenges. By turning information into a story, you deliver the knowledge in the exact format your mind prefers to consume, and therefore refuses to discard. This is where the great transformation happens, the true goal of all this effort. You cease to be a mere collector of information, who lives in fear of forgetting what they've just stored, and you become a builder of knowledge. The information is no longer leaking from all sides, because it's no longer loose inside a broken bucket. It is now interconnected, welded, secure within a solid structure that you built yourself. That fragile, unreliable bucket, through this technique, has finally become a vault. See? In the end, the great secret to remembering everything isn't having a gifted memory or a genius IQ. It's simply to stop treating your brain like a warehouse and start treating it like a workshop. It's about trading the brute effort of memorization for the intelligent effort of simplification. It's about having the courage to face your own gaps and, above all, the discipline to build your knowledge, piece by piece, weld by weld. The feeling of learning something today and knowing with certainty that, a month from now, that idea will still be there, clear and accessible in your mind, is absolutely liberating. You stop being afraid of forgetting, and you gain the confidence to learn anything. And if you've watched this far, you've already proven that you're no longer content with being a passive learner. You've already taken the first and most difficult step, which is the decision to change. Now, to turn that decision into action, I have a challenge for you. What is the first concept, no matter how simple or complex, that you're going to put on paper and try to explain using the Feynman technique? I want you to comment below. I'll read and reply to some of them. What will be the first weld of knowledge you apply to your brain?